Support for this podcast comes from St. Alphonsus Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Clinics, with physicians, physical therapists, and trainers who treat sports and performance-related injuries, with locations across the valley. More information on services and locations at stalphonsus.org/stayactive.
It's The Connector from Boise State Public Radio News. Good morning. I'm Troy Oppie. In today for George Prentice, it's Friday, September 5th. This morning, a small Idaho town pushes back against the Department of Justice. The state's Republican senators teaming up across party lines to find clean water sources in national forests. Attendance at the Western Idaho Fair was down this year. And the Idaho Center one step closer to being sold off by the City of Nampa. Those stories and more this morning on The Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio. We start with the Bureau of Land Management this morning, which says 2 men responsible for 2 separate wildfires last year in southwest Idaho have been ordered to pay restitution to BLM. Law enforcement identified the men as having caused the Leeds and Chalky Butte fires, both using exploding ammunition, which is illegal. The Leeds fire was sparked October 30th, not far from the diversion dam in southeast Boise. It burned 355 acres, threatening homes. The shooter responsible, who was not identified in a BLM news release, will pay more than $20,000 to the Bureau. The man who started the Chalky Butte fire in Owyhee County last November 1st, trying to celebrate a Boise State football win, will pay more than $4,300. Idaho's 2 Republican senators are signing on to a bipartisan bill that would triple the budget of a program to clean up water sources in national forests. Here's James Dawson with more.
Senators Mike Crapo and Jim Risch want to expand grants that go to farmers, utilities, and cities to rehabilitate these polluted waters. If passed, it would prioritize projects involving wildfire restoration, drinking water, and climate change resiliency. Under the Headwaters Protection Act, annual grants for the Water Source Protection Program would increase from $10 million to $30 million. In a statement, Crapo and Risch said these projects are best organized at the local level and that they can ensure clean drinking and irrigation water for decades to come if done properly. The bill would also establish $30 million in annual funding for the Forest Service to evaluate watersheds and ensure current management practices don't degrade healthy water sources in the future. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
And we head to North Idaho now, where the town of Troy says the Department of Justice is suing them for something they didn't do. We get a report from Spokane Public Radio's Owen Henderson, who tells us the city attorney says the federal government has no business dictating local zoning laws, and what the government's trying to do could set a dangerous precedent.
2 years ago, the Troy City Council decided against giving the far-right Christ Church a permit to host worship in its downtown property. City officials say it's a decision that had to do with zoning and concerns over lack of parking, not the church's ideology. But in May, DOJ sued the town, saying it violated a federal law against deciding zoning based on religious beliefs. City Attorney Todd Richardson says that law allows municipalities to work with the federal government to rectify any infractions before the town gets sued.
We said, how would you want us to fix it? We can't tell you. Do you have a proposed zoning code? Do you have a model zoning code? Do you have something you would reference us to that works? No, we can't tell you that. How do you work with somebody that won't talk to you?
He says the Justice Department did offer an alternative before suing, but the city declined. Richardson says their solution would have meant admitting the city did something wrong, which he denies. The town filed its official response to the lawsuit at the end of August. Now the 2 sides can begin discussions that will lead to setting a trial date. The Justice Department declined SPR's request for comment. I'm Owen Henderson, reporting.
Thanks to our friends at Spokane Public Radio for sharing that story. In Nampa, Mayor Debbie Kling this week broke a 3-3 city council tie, authorizing the city to take a step forward toward possible sale of the Ford Idaho Center. The city previously announced it was considering conveying the property and its nearly $6 million in deferred maintenance needs to the College of Western Idaho. That's still a possibility, but the city has now said a potential buyer has expressed interest. Boise Dev reports the vote by the council this week authorizes the city to publish a declaration of potential conveyance or sale. That's a formal step that allows a buyer to come forward and request an appraisal. The vote does not mean the Idaho Center will be sold. Nampa says it does not have the funding to address the maintenance backlog. Officials have declined to put a levy override before taxpayers to try to cover those costs. Idaho's Department of Environmental Quality is asking private well owners in Northeast Star to participate in free well water testing. That area is on DEQ's list of known degraded groundwater areas. It's one of the top nitrate priority areas in the state. Sampling of private wells will take place in September and October and will inform DEQ of nitrate levels in the aquifer. Anyone in that area with a private well is asked to contact DEQ for more information. Price hikes on rides and domestic beers at the Western Idaho Fair this summer helped push fair revenues up, but attendance compared to last year was down more than 8,000 people. That's what Expo Idaho Director Bob Batista told Ada County Commissioners this week. He says there's no clear reason for the drop in fairgoers.
That's disappointing to me a little bit. I thought the crowd was going to be a lot bigger, particularly on that last weekend. And again, we're going to delve into what we think are some of the causes for that.
Expenses from the fair are likely to rise a bit, Batista says. Labor costs are higher, and the fair's focus on security and cleanliness are two labor-intensive tasks. Final numbers are still being calculated. Batista said more people participated, though, in fair exhibitions compared to last year. Agriculture, craft, photo contests, and the like. The total number of exhibits were up 15%. Now, construction of the park at Expo Idaho is hitting high gear. The greenbelt at the north end of the expo grounds has been closed to allow some work. There's also repaving work being done in the parking lots, and Batista says work is already underway transforming the old horse track into a pro soccer pitch for the debut this coming spring of Athletic Club Boise in the United Soccer League. And let's step fully into sports before we sign off this morning. Boise State football back in action tonight. They'll host lower division Eastern Washington in the Broncos' home opener. It's a chance for Boise State to get right on the field after the 34-7 loss last week at South Florida, after which Coach Spencer Danielson questioned his team's effort.
Our mentality and our effort was nowhere near the standard it needs to be at Boise State. That is something we are actively working to get fixed. Should not have shown up on Thursday night, and it did. And as a coach, it is not on those players. It is on me to make sure that standard is clear. And if a player can't do that consistently, they're not going to play her.
Danielson says he wants to see more joy, more energy on the sideline than they had in South Florida. The school yesterday announced that tonight's game is now sold out. Stadium capacity this year has been reduced a bit with the north end zone closed for the expansion project. The north end zone fan entrance is also closed this season. The school says it is opening all gates 2 hours before kickoff for its home games. BSU will also debut an interactive map for fans to use in and around Albertson Stadium. You can find it online, maps.broncosports.com. Kickoff tonight is at 7 p.m. If you're watching on TV, it's on subscription channel FS1. Elsewhere on campus, Boise State volleyball 4-0 on the season after a win yesterday in day one of the Bronco Classic, beating UC Davis in straight sets. Broncos host the University of Arizona this afternoon at 3:30. And Bronco women's soccer fell to Weber State 2-0 on Thursday. The team's back in action Sunday, hosting UTEP. That's your Connector on this Friday. Hope you make it a great day. Have a great weekend as well. I'm Troy Oppie. Our news director is Sasha Woodruff. Our digital strategy manager is Lacey Daly. Our general manager is Tom Michael. Thanks for listening.
It's rare to find a podcast that can actually change your life. But when the show's called Life Kit, that's kind of the whole point. I'm Mariel Segarra. 3 times a week on the Life Kit podcast, we guide you through a topic we could all use help with, from personal development to healthy living to managing your dinero. with takeaways so you can start living what you learn right away. Escucha el Life Kit podcast from NPR.